What's going on, folks? It's your friendly neighborhood Professor Cag, swinging through the hallways, highways, and byways of a local YouTube room near you. And today we are in the house and in the class. Sorry, we're in the class with Cag. So, as always, I do indeed have two particular groups of classes, or well, two groups of students who are joining me tonight. And so tonight, what I do want to actually highlight for you all is that because you all have started on different times throughout the semester, I will kind of split this YouTube live into two parts. It'll be two 30-minute parts. Okay. So the first part was going to actually address the class focused on research argument proposals. I will walk you all through the assignment from start to finish. More specifically, we will go through the process of research. And the first half of this video is going to actually cover how to explore and utilize our library databases. And then the second half of class, we'll actually discuss any kind of questions from the class that just started last week. So the class that's actually going into week 2. Okay. Our class that has begun our week 2 and that's learning how to write and compose critical memoirs. All right. So, folks, as we did last week, let's go ahead on. I see that we've got some folks who joined us here in the chat. Folks, if you're joining us here live from Cag's class, drop your name in the chat. Say what's up to your friendly neighborhood professor. Let's see who's rolling through our neighborhood. Who do we have in our neighborhood? Imelda, what's up? How you doing? Hey, you know what? I was just talking about you the other day. Listen here. Hey, you made me proud with your essay number 3. I haven't finished grading it just yet, but I did have a chance to actually take a look at it. Miss Imelda, you made me so proud. You made me so proud. You're going to get some feedback on that essay, but you made me so proud with that one right there. I love it. Good job. Good job. Very proud of you. Jamari, what's happening? How you doing? I see you. I'm feeling good, Jamari. All right. And I got Miss Mai in here too, Newfable. Miss Mai is in the building, in the Zoom Boom room. Okay, Moni, what's happening? What's up? What's up? What's up? Greedy Greg, what's up, man? Greedy Greg, what's happening? What's up? What's up, man? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Man, you know, I had a great day today. I don't know if y'all have been watching FIFA, or rather the World Cup. FIFA. I don't know if y'all have been watching the World Cup, but man, let me tell you something. It's exciting. I don't even follow soccer like that, but the increased global presence, the increased marketing around it has brought it literally to my front door. I'm not far from the SoFi Stadium, and let me tell you, boy, the traffic is real. But also so is the excitement. The excitement is very real. Watching y'all know how hard it is to score a goal? Like not just like in regular, like, I'm saying, like park soccer, but they tied right now. Yep. Yeah. I just left my meeting, and in the background they actually had the game going. So it was 1-0 last time I had actually saw it. So it's crazy that they're actually tied up right now. But y'all know how hard it is to score a goal in soccer. Look here. I mean, I'm not just talking about like just regular community park soccer. I mean, you might could get you about 1, 2, 2, 3, 4 goals, right? But I mean, in professional, we've been doing this for decades, and we get paid to do this. Football, okay? international level skills. Like we move from one country to the next country. Y'all know how hard it is to score a goal in that game of football right there? Man, I understand why people actually celebrate and cheer the way that they do whenever their team score a goal because it's really, really hard. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I do believe Colombia won a couple of days ago. I'm actually really pushing for it, and somebody actually helped me because I don't think I didn't finish watching the game last night, but the matchup that I really, really, really want to happen is Mexico and Scotland. I want Mexico and Scotland in Mexico City. I want that matchup there to happen. Uh, Not because I want any one team to win over the other necessarily, but just because the game is going to be in Mexico, and I mean, when you is it Mexico and Scotland or is it Mexico and Ireland? I can't remember. It might actually be Mexico and Ireland. I think it's Ireland. I think it's actually Ireland. My bad. Not Scotland, but Ireland. I think. But if that game happens in Mexico, that is going to be the most fun game. I would fly out of the country to go stand outside and to just celebrate and to enjoy whatever it is, whoever it is who actually wins, because that town, that space is going to be the most fun. That is going to be a game where that town is going to be filled with some of the most amazing and fun people throughout the entire globe. Do you hear me? Mexico and Ireland? What? Pretty sure it's Ireland. Don't hold me to that. It's either Ireland or Scotland. But the both of them, I'm pretty sure it's Ireland. It's going to be an amazingly fun time. I really just want to see whoever's doing the camera footage of like the people partying throughout the town, because I know it's going to be one epic shindig. Brain Food, Ali is in the building. Ali, what's up? Welcome to the neighborhood. So glad to have you. So glad to have you. Okay, folks. So now that we have everybody who's actually joined us, I think we'll probably have like a couple more people kind of trickling on in. And as the folks actually trickle on in, we will indeed say what's up, welcome them to the neighborhood. But as I mentioned at the beginning of this YouTube Live, we're going to split this YouTube Live up into two segments. Okay. So if you are in my sections of classes that started most recently, so like you're in week 2, then you can come back in about 30 minutes and then it'll be pertaining to you. But on the other hand, you can also still stay, and I highly recommend that all of you still stay, even if you're in my class that's only starting that's only at week 2, because this information is going to be relevant to you in about 3 weeks. Okay, so I would highly suggest that you stay here, start taking notes, get ahead of the game, and also learn a thing or two about a thing or two. Okay. All right, folks. So let's dive right on in now. Without further ado, let's hop right on in. So you have those of you who are in my section 30141. This is week 5 for you. Y'all have an assignment, a research argument proposal that's actually due soon. It's due this Sunday. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to actually put on your radar too as well is for those of you who are in my section 30141, this is week 5 for you, your final revisions for the writing assignments that you've received feedback on from myself, you can submit those at the latest by this Sunday. Okay. And it has to be by this Sunday because I cannot accept them after Sunday. I need to start grading all of your revisions plus your final essays so that way I can get my grades in by Thursday. Okay. By Thursday of next week. All right. Similarly, if you have any questions too as well, please drop those questions in the chat. Okay. I'm working between 2 different screens. Between like multiple windows, and what I'll do is every once in a while I will circle back to the YouTube screen where um, I'll circle back to the YouTube screen where the chat is located, um, and then I'll be able to see your questions. Okay. So please feel free to drop any questions, comments, emotionally justifiable outbursts in the chat, folks. Okay. So let me go ahead on so I can share my screen. There we go. Okay. So let's go here to our week 5 announcements, right? That's from this week. I posted these announcements here up this past Monday. So all of you should see, at least on this announcement here, and again, you can access it by going to announcements. This is where I post our weekly, every single week I post up an announcement. This is where you all can find your latest updates, right? The latest and the greatest, all right? Here, this week's focus, we're going over building research argument proposals. Here you also have your reading and course materials that's laid out. This comes directly from the course schedule. Okay, your upcoming assignment, which is due this Sunday, June 28th by 11:59 p.m. It's writing assignment number 4, research argument proposal. Okay, everything that you need to know in order to build this essay is laid out here in course module 5.0. Okay, and now today in our YouTube live, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually kind of talk about some extra Scooby snacks. Okay, I'm going to actually lay out some extra Scooby snacks, some things for us to actually kind of munch on, food for thought, and also too for good digestion on how to color in some of the details and fill in some of the gaps that may potentially be left throughout module 5.0. And here specifically what I'm thinking of is I'm going to talk to you all about how to utilize our Cerritos College library databases. Okay. Right. So those of you who are in my class that started most recently about 2 weeks ago, this is definitely good food for thought for you all. And you definitely want to take notes if you can. If you're at the job and you just have me in your ears, great job. Please do not get fired. If you need to hop off and hop back on because your boss is actually rolling around, please, by all means, keep your job. Okay, this is being recorded and it will be posted up to our YouTube schedule, our YouTube scheduler. All right, but if you all can and you have a notebook directly in front of you, you're not at the job, please take notes, okay? Because we're going to actually discuss how to utilize the Cerritos College library databases, all right? So one more thing that I need to actually add here is the note that I mentioned to you all about your revisions, right? So all final revision work, right? Meaning if you did not do the assignment at this point, it is way too late for you to actually submit it for the first time. Okay. Those of you who have received feedback from me, okay, you all can submit and revise your essays, but they have to be due by this Monday at the latest. Okay. Right. Monday at the latest. I can kind of give y'all a little bit of wiggle room right there. Right. Monday at the absolute latest, but it can't be after Monday. Okay. So let's scroll on down now. Without further ado, we're going to dive right on into course module 5. Building tools for research argument proposals. Here, as you can see, this actually lays out in the first post, building a better tomorrow, finding solutions to social problems. This lays out the goals and aims of this module. In 5.1, we initiate the process of, we get exposed to how to initiate the process of research, right? Everything from providing you all with a broad overview of what research is, how it's done, and also to what the major purpose, goals, and aims of research are in a short YouTube video. Actually, I think it's about maybe 10, 15 minutes or so. But right after that, you'll see formulating research questions. Now, here's the important part. In order to compose your research argument proposals, you'll need to start with a topic, okay? And this, of course, if you've read through the modules, you'll see that in the modules, this is the place where you go in order to get started with your research, right? So it's all research, all arguments really start from questions. Okay, so these resources here will help to give you some important again, kind of food for thought or ideas on what to do with research questions, right? And also, too, what to do with resources. But even more importantly, it'll actually provide with a list, a PDF file, right, of research questions. Okay. Now, there's one exception that I have to actually provide, one caveat that I have to provide you all with. You cannot write about abortion. Okay, that's issue number one right here. Do not write about abortion. You also cannot write about, I will not allow for y'all, I will not accept arguments that are written about gun control. Okay, these are the only two exceptions for the research topics that I will not allow to be written on in this course. Now, I'm sure at least one of y'all out there in the YouTube lands, or one of y'all out there in Professor Cag's neighborhood, is thinking or asking themselves the question, well, why wouldn't you do that, Cag? Why those two in particular, right? It's not because I'm an abortion rights advocate or a gun advocate. I actually have very little stake in either side of the particular issue when it comes to arguing, or at least when it comes to the function of research. In fact, I think a lot more research needs to probably be done on these two issues. However, when it comes to student level research, these two issues here, that oftentimes students' arguments end up mirroring a pro-con debate, in which case there's no stasis that's created between the various views on the issue. Oftentimes, students just quite simply relegate their positions to simple moral positions, right? And I say simple because they're not well argued. There's no room for complexity or even room for research. It's quite simply a regurgitation of the opinions that they have heard from someone else. Okay. Same thing with gun control, right? There's no stasis that's created, crafted, and sustained between the various perspectives on the issue itself, right? So this here is what we would call, at least from a composition and rhetoric standpoint, right? These two, the two sides of either one of these issues here, the solutions that are argued for in either one of these two issues here, they oftentimes ignore and do not take seriously the opposing side or various points of view that actually challenge their own position that they have adopted, that the writer has adopted. Okay. So it ends up being just quite simply a regurgitation of thoughts and ideas that have just been recirculated ad nauseum. And that's actually a terrible exercise in the larger effort and approach of research that we are looking to embark upon here. In other words, the majority of my students who used to take up those issues failed this essay because they did not argue well, and there was no level or layers of complexity to their arguments and to their positions. Okay, so and most importantly, they did not take seriously the opposing views or the opposing side. Okay, so we cannot actually write about either one of these two issues here: gun control nor abortion. All right, we cannot write about those two. All right. Question: Was the final essay assignment posted on the Canvas module, Professor Cag? Yes, they are. It has been posted since course module 5.0 went up. I believe that was actually last Thursday, as a matter of fact. So the last time that we were here, YouTube Live Land, That was the same night that the writing assignment number 4 was actually posted. So let's dive in and take a look at that one. Here we can actually see it under modules. You can always find the writing assignment underneath as a last post in the module itself, right? So here we could see writing assignment number 4, 5. Am I too loud?
No, I think you're on live.
I am. I'm totally on live right now. They're watching me right now. I'm sorry, y'all. This is my wife. I'm talking to my wife. I came in and I gave her a kiss. I said hello. I was on the phone. I was being a poor husband. I came in, said hello. I was on the phone at the time. I came directly into my office so that way I could hop directly onto our YouTube live, and I didn't even get to spend any time with my poor wife. She has a heart of gold because she totally just closed my office door. So yes, the writing assignment number 4 is indeed posted. Yours is not on there. Okay, so here's a question that I have for you, Jamari. Jamari, what section are you in? Henry, what's up? How you doing, Henry? I see you. Henry Alvita is present. What's happening? Welcome to the neighborhood. Yeah, Jamari, what section are you in? I don't think you're in section 30141. You can find the section number by looking in the upper left-hand corner of your Canvas. All right. So right up here, this is the section number. Right. What section are you in, Jamari? There's a 5-digit number right after the course. So you see where on our screen where I'm sharing, it says English C1000, and then there's a 5-digit number right after that. I need you to double check that for me and then tell me what your section number is. While you're checking on that, I'm going to continue on. So the most important first step, right, is certainly to determine a topic, right? Once you determine a topic, then you can, and you can certainly find your topics here, right, from the research question sheet that I've actually provided. But once you determine your topic, then you could actually, yes, yeah. So that makes sense, Jamari. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this YouTube live, right, I'm splitting this YouTube live up into 2 parts. The first part is more so directed to the folks who are in section 30141, what you can see above on the shared screen. That's my class that started summer school earlier than you all. For those of you who started just 2 weeks ago, this material is not immediately relevant to you, but it will be in about 3 weeks. Okay. So yes, Jamari, you're not supposed to be able to see this at all. Because you haven't progressed past course module 2.0. That's the one that your class is actually on right now. Okay. But I'm going to go through this with you all. Don't worry. No apologies necessary. No apologies necessary at all. No. But I'm going to go through this with you right now. So if you can't actually see any of this material on your end, trust me, don't worry. You will. Just take notes. Take notes for right now. Okay. Start with the titles of whatever the document is that we are going through, and then you can start to take your bullet point notes immediately underneath that. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so so the first step, right, you have to actually identify your topic, right? So what am I going to talk about? Now, when you identify your topic, then you can begin to at least, if you want to utilize this example here that I provided, right, the examples of controversial questions, controversial issue questions, then that would help you to narrow down your specific research question. Now, what we learned from last week, course module 4.0, as we were crafting our persuasive arguments, if you don't have an issue, you don't have an argument. All arguments begin from an issue. right? A specific, well-defined social issue or problem, right? So, for example, let me give you an example, okay? Here's what an example of a social issue is, right? And then I'll talk to you all about what a social issue is not, right? An example of a social issue is, I don't know, let's just say a problem that affects more than one individual and more than just an individual. Okay. So it's a problem that affects people on a wide scale social level, not just one or two, but a problem that affects a community. This entire time that we've been together for the past 5 weeks, right? Next week it'll be 6. It'll be our last week. Okay. We've been talking about how we've been talking about community. We started off with writing assignment number 1, reflecting critically on our community, our home communities where we grew up, where we were raised, right? Then we begin to expand in week 2 by exploring, week 3, right? Course module number 3, we begin to explore outside the boundaries of our own community while still keeping in mind, right? Our communities and the social problems that kind of pervade throughout them, particularly as they pertain to poverty or as they pertain to people who are impoverished, right? Folks who are part of the working class, folks who are part of especially the working poor class, right? Those individuals who Barbara Ehrenreich was actually working with in the book entitled Nickel and Dime, which is the primary framework that we use to explore how social problems that exist on a wide scale social level, right? Social problems like welfare reform, specifically the Welfare Reform Act of 1996, right? Affected people all throughout the country, affected communities all throughout the country, right? By changing the rules and the guidelines, the parameters of those who could receive welfare, right? Okay, right? So we're still continuing on this same line of thought, the same trajectory. This time with writing assignment number 4, instead of you only utilizing or you only focusing or exploring an issue that has already kind of been pre-made and provided for you from the book that we're reading, now we're expanding the menu of social issues that you can select and that you could explore a solution to. That's what your goal here is with writing assignment number 4, with the research argument proposal. Your goal is to research solutions to specific, well-defined a specific, well-defined social problem. Okay, with the exception of abortion and gun control. Can I write about those 2 issues? Now, first step, we have to decide on a topic, right? So these, what you see here, right, in all caps, these are all topics. What you see written after the all caps, right, which is presented in the form of a question, those are what we would call research questions. So in other words, this is what you want to respond to in order to formulate your thesis statement, okay? Now, let's go back. I'm going to kind of jump right directly to, I'm not going to go through the entire module, but I am going to dive right on into our assignment itself, right? So specifically, writing assignment number 4, research argument proposal. What you see here in the overview is that in an essay of 6 to 8 pages, make use of the concepts, readings, documentaries, video clips, and themes from the course to offer a broad plan of action to propose a solution. Specifically propose a solution. I do not want you all, do not regurgitate the problem to me. Do not research or focus the main bread and butter, the main majority of your research on telling me about the problem and how it kind of came to be, and then give me a little paragraph on the solution. If you do that, you will fail this assignment, period, point blank. There's no exception. I am looking for those papers that do that because that means 1, that you did not actually read chapter 15, and that means 2, you also did not go back and read or view this YouTube live, Okay. So both chapter 15, which is on the first post in course module 5.0, excuse me, 5.1, it specifically says that you have to research a solution, right? The point and purpose of a research argument proposal is to propose a solution, not to propose a problem. The problem is already there, right? And in fact, what you could even possibly do is you could utilize the same social problem or the same issue that you explored from writing assignment number 3, right? The persuasive argument. You could actually take that to the next logical conclusion and transform that, right? Revise that, right? Redevelop that, research that problem in the form, excuse me, research that problem and the solutions that have been argued. The majority of your research should be focused on finding what solutions experts have offered to address the problem. This particular proposal requires that you pull together one solution that you found in your research to answer the question. Here's your central question. What can we do to solve this problem and or to rebuild a more collaborative, a more socially equal, and humane society? Okay. Now, this here is what I want to highlight for y'all. Oh, this changed completely. This is not. Oh, you know what? Goodness gracious. Okay. Oh, phew. So this is weird. Why does it do this, folks? See, this is what it should look like, right? Like you should be able to like kind of pop down, like use these plus or minus things here. I specifically did not want the entirety of the assignment to be laid out because I didn't want to overwhelm you all. Does it look like this on your end, folks who are in my my 30141 section? Does it look like the screen that you see right now on your end when you look at the writing assignment number 4 page? Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know if it looks like that on your end, if you could see the plus or minus symbols, or if it's just all laid out. Ooh, sheesh Louise. Please know that I really tried, because on my end, it looks like this. I really tried not to overwhelm you. I really tried not to overwhelm you. Does it look like that on your end, folks? Let me know. Drop a note in the chat. Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled program. I'll take a look at the chat periodically and see if there's any episodes, see if there's any additions, right? Because look here, look at this. See, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is way too much. Look at this. There's a lot. This is so much. This is so much. You're supposed to be able to kind of control that, right? You're supposed to be able to actually kind of control that by with the plus and minus symbols here. Okay, anyways, let's get focused. So step 1, how do you do this thing up here that Professor Cag, right, with his crazy self is asking y'all to do, right? Y'all know y'all professor's crazy. Well, step 1, here are the instructions. Step 1, choose your research topic, right? A good formula or a good way to kind of just imagine and envision your research topic, right, is a point of tension, or in other words, a problem, a social problem. This is just another word for a social problem, okay? A problem that people are actually faced with, right? So a problem, a good idea or a good example of a particular kind of social problem is parking. Parking at Cerritos College campus. I know. There's so few parking spots that are actually available. And there's so few parking spots in particular that are available for students, right? There's so few parking spots that are available for students that are close to the classes that y'all need to take. I mean, unless y'all want to park all the way in the back in lot 10, or what I call Disneyland parking, right? Because it just reminds me of the horror and the mess. Okay, Monica, not mine. I don't have the plus signs. Dang, okay. Thank you so much for letting me know that, Monica. That means that it shows up the way that it's showing up right now on my student view. I'm so sorry about that, y'all. I'm going to have to continue to try to work on that to see if I can get it to show up on y'all's end with the plus and minus sign. So I'm sorry about that. Okay. So it starts, all problems start with a particular, all research arguments start with a specific and well-defined social problem. An example of that would be, right, the lack of available parking spaces at Cerritos College campus. Now, the reason why this here is an example of a good social problem is because this is a problem that ends up affecting not only students, right, but it certainly does, most importantly, affect students on a wide scale social level, right? So all students are kind of sort of affected by it, or a lot of students are affected by it, but it also too impacts faculty and employees, right? So faculty and staff around the entire campus. How? How does it affect them, right? I'm sure many of you might actually be thinking, well, they got all of the parking spots. They get to park all the way up in the front. Yeah, that's kind of sort of true, right? Like them spaces are marked. Those spaces are marked for faculty, right? And staff, but students do it anyway. Students do it anyway, folks. I've seen you students do it anyway. Y'all sit up there and y'all park right in the faculty parking lot. Just as I'm trying to get to the office right on time, I'm like, huh. That's a student right there sitting right in their car in a faculty and staff parking lot, right? I don't hate on them anyway, but you know what though? I do try to let them know, hey, look, man, FYI, I'm gonna find me another parking spot, but FYI, y'all might not want to leave your car there because that's exactly that's what the parking enforcement is looking for. see, exactly. what See, and it's not going to do listen to me, okay? As a former student, I built with the amount of money that I paid in parking fines, right? At the University of California, Riverside, I probably contributed to the building, to a new building fund, okay, with the amount of tickets that I have had to pay. Okay. All right. It is not worth it. Get to campus a little earlier. And I know if you're there right then and there at that point in time, y'all are like, nah, but I gotta hurry up and go. I got this, I got that, I got a final, I gotta hurry up. Listen, it's not worth it. Like, because if you because that ticket is starting out with like $85, either 75 or 85. I can't remember which one, but it's starting out pretty high. Okay. That's a full tank of gas right now. Okay. The amount of that ticket is a full tank of gas that will last a whole week. Do you hear me when I say it's not worth it? Go to Disneyland, find another, go somewhere else. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a faculty member. I got to go other places too. I can't always just park right in front of my building. Okay. I got to find another place to park. I got to roll. I got to go all the way over to well, see, now they have like these little, what do they call it? The photovoltaic kind of shading. Oh gosh, I'm having a little bit of a brain fart right now. What do they call that? That absorbs the sunlight. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh my gosh, I'm having such a brain fart right now. What do they call those the areas right over by the gym? With the parking lot right by the gym. I think it's like lot 1 or maybe lot 2 or something like that. It's the oh gosh, underneath the sun absorbers. Oh gosh, I cannot believe. Okay, well, anyways, solar panels. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, y'all. Either I'm getting old or it's getting late. I don't know which one. It might be a mixture of both. Thank you so much, Mai. Yes, I gotta go and park underneath the solar panels. Okay, that is far and away from where it is that I need to be. All right, folks. It helps build the habits of getting to school or campus early, like way before you need to be there. All right. Do not pay a whole week's worth of gas just to be somewhere for 60 minutes. That's like $1 a minute that you paying for. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I'm off my little soapbox right quick. That's an example of a social problem, right? The lack of available parking spaces for both students and faculty. That's a common issue that the both, right, students, faculty, and staff actually face, right? That's a common issue. That's what we would call a social issue, right? It's an issue that affects multiple groups of people, right? Not just an issue that affects you, not just something that you don't like, right? You see, right? So, part of what we have to actually understand here is when we're starting out our research argument proposals, the process of researching, right? We have to identify a particular topic, right? But after we kind of settle in on a topic, right? Like it helps to think about that topic based on where you want to focus on. Do you want to focus on issues that occur in your school community, or do you want to focus on issues that affect your home community, right? At least that's a place when I was a student, that's a place that was always generative. And I always could think about ideas or topics if I thought about them in terms of one of those two areas, right? If you just want to kind of explore, like a new topic, I'm not sure that you'll have the time to like really fully explore and like kind of embrace all that stuff. So, I mean, you want to kind of be very cautious with your time. However, suffice it to say, at the very least, you need to identify all arguments start with a social problem. You need to identify the specific social problem. Okay. Then, after you identify the specific social problem that people are actually affected by, then you want to ask yourself, or then you want to develop the analytical question, right? The analytical question could come from like I said earlier, right? The research question sheet that I provided for you all, right? Or it could also come from your research itself. So look at what researchers have been asking. Look at the questions that researchers have been asking. And we'll go over one of the research databases that kind of collects some of those questions for you all today. Look at some of those questions and identify the question that's most relevant to the issue that you want to explore, right? Solutions on. Once you identify and set your question, then you have something to respond to. Let me give you the DJ Khaled major key alert. You ready? Your response to that issue question, a one sentence response to that issue question with 3 logical reasons that support that response is going to formulate your thesis. That's your thesis formula. Okay? It is a one sentence response with 3 logical reasons that support that arguable claim. Okay. So if you are kind of connecting the dots, and I want you to definitely connect the dots here, right? The same formula that we use for the thesis statement from a persuasive argument is the same formula that we're going to apply for the research argument proposal. Okay. And that's also covered to some degree here. It's actually covered in this crash course study on how to write research papers. Okay. Now, I've just recently, because it actually came to my attention that I did not include the research topics from one of your classmates from my section 4.1 class. But so I just recently add these topics here, and these are from my original assignment sheet, which I converted into what you see now. These are some possible research topics by subject that you could actually explore. Okay. So you'll notice that I'm not putting together the research questions for you, but these are topics that you can begin to explore so you can research the questions that experts are asking along these different topic lines, right? So for example, within the larger bucket of corporate greed, there exist multiple topics, right? Just 3 that I provided for you: income inequality, wealth transfer, and then the corporate tax benefits and rising profits. Within the larger bucket of debt, you have the national debt topic. You have predatory lending by banks, mortgage crisis, and student loan debt, along with consumer debt crisis. Within a larger bucket of inequality, you have multiple topics here that could be explored, right? And you'll also notice that there are hyperlinks in these topics that are provided here. Now, if you click on any one of these topics or these hyperlinks, right, it'll take you directly to what we call a research database that we call procon.org. And as you look along the side right here, for example, if we select corporate tax rate, you'll see there's a ton of research that's actually provided here. Think about it like this. Does anybody remember? Oh gosh, man, I'm definitely going to be showing my age because I don't know if I think they stopped producing these in like 2010, where like some of y'all were just barely being born. Anybody in here remember Encyclopedia Britannica? I do. I could never forget it because my grandmother was like the local neighborhood librarian. She had a whole set of world encyclopedias that every kid on the block would always come down to they called her Auntie Renee on my neighbor in my neighborhood. They would come down to Auntie Renee's house so that way they could use her encyclopedias whenever they had to do like a research report or like a book report or something like that, right? But basically, Encyclopedia Britannica ended up folding a lot of their physical operations into online databases. And that's what you actually see right here. This is actually called procon.org, and it's housed in Britannica, the Britannica website. So what you could see is an entire breakdown, right? Okay. Yes. Yeah, so I got some folks who set up here, right? Y'all remember what it was? Y'all know what it was, right? You used to go door to door selling it. What? Okay, right? Okay, yeah. Right? Hispanica. Yes, yeah. Yes, right. They have multiple variations, like in multiple languages for sure, right? Excellent. Yeah, yes, the blue ones, Gritty Greg, right? The blue ones too, for sure, right? So oh shoot, you know what? Wait, y'all can't actually see. Okay, hold on. There we go. Okay, now you can see it. So when I clicked on the excellent, yeah. So you remember those, right? So they folded their operations into just completely online databases. And what they've done is they've also collaborated, partnered with procon.org. And procon.org is a research database site that provides or collects, it collates data similar to an encyclopedia, right? But it provides it all in an electronic database format where you can access a variety of different links to different statistics, historical facts, key quotes, even discussion questions. Okay. So, part of the reason why I wanted to ask you all this particular website is because of the discussion questions that it asks. So, when you click on the link, on the assignment prompt that says, corporate tax breaks or so on and so forth, it's going to lead you to the first page that I just clicked off of. And then you can find along the left side of the navigational toolbar, right, a section that says discussion questions. This is where you want to go in order to identify and select your key research question. So, which particular research question follows in alignment with the topic or with the issue that you want to explore? Should the US corporate tax rate be raised, right? So are you talking about, or do you want to explore the issue of whether or not the US corporate tax rate should be raised, right? Or do you want to actually explore the issue of should a global tax rate be implemented, right? Or do you want to explore alternatively, right, the other issue of should corporations be taxed in any other ways, right? So, or rather, in what way? Here's a better way to ask this question: in what ways should corporations be taxed, right? So, you want to actually think about or identify only one, not three, not multiple. You cannot do multiple questions. I want you to focus on one question, and that is it. Okay, because the nature of your essay and the capacity, the parameters of this essay is only going to allow for you to really explore one question. And that's the point. So after the research question, right? So here, right, you could kind of sort of get a sense of, I know it says take action, excuse me, but this, these links here seem to more so provide information that would help to provide you with contextual awareness. Excuse me. Okay. So let's go back to the intro, right? So this whole entire database right here on is focused on corporate tax rate. And really, the main question that I would actually select and that I would focus on is the one that's right underneath the topic itself. Should the federal corporate income tax rate be raised? Right? Your thesis statement should come in the form of an arguable claim and three logical reasons in direct response. You need to write an answer. Your thesis statement should directly answer this question. Now, how would you do that? Well, let's take a look back. At our assignment prompt. Okay. Actually, let's go back to the modules on this one. I want to go back to the modules just because it's going to give us a clear-cut answer to how to formulate a thesis statement, right? So if we go back to 4.1, right? And I'm not hopping all over the place, and I don't mean to try to hop all over the place here, folks. But what I really want to highlight for you is that everything that you've learned from the past, right, from the past modules, you want to keep that with you. You want to keep those techniques with you, and you want to take them with you to the next module. Okay, just like how everything that you learn in this entire class, you want to keep with you, and you want to take with you to all the rest of your classes. It's almost like you have like a kind of tool belt, right? Or like a utility belt, like Batman or Batgirl, right? Robin, Nightwing, right? They all have utility belts that they could actually restock and refill with different resources that they take with them into battle or into, to investigate a crime scene or to do, whatever it is that the bats do. You want to take these resources here, right? These techniques with you, put them in your tool belt, right? And go forward with them. So when it comes to a thesis statement, right, this is how we formulate and write a thesis statement. A thesis statement should be, right, a one-sentence response. A one-sentence response to the research question in the form of an arguable statement and three logical reasons, okay? So when I say an arguable statement or an arguable claim, what does that mean? Well, we can better understand what it means if we understand how it functions, right? So we can define it based on its function, based on what it does. Arguable statements seek to convince readers of something. They seek to change their minds or call them to action, right? So you'll oftentimes hear me articulate an arguable claim, or you'll note that somebody is articulating an arguable claim when they say something should happen. The careful use, the strategic use of the word should, right? Not in the form of a question, but in the form of a statement, right? Connotes an argument, right? Or rather, an arguable claim. Why and how? Because not everybody agrees with that. Not everybody agrees that this should happen. And in fact, you don't want everybody to agree with it all, right? Not that you have any control over that. However, the very nature of the use of the word should connotes an argument, right? It connotes an ideal or an aspiration that individuals would seek to convince others upon. And that is the very nature of an arguable statement. You want it to be arguable. That is to say, you don't want a bunch of people to actually agree with it, right? Or rather, you have to actually kind of embrace the reality that not everybody is going to agree with it. And that's part of the point, because your goal is to present those people who do not agree with you or who do not agree with that arguable claim, to present them with evidence toward the goal of changing their mind. Okay, right? That's part of the point. Next, an arguable statement presents a position that has no obvious answer and that readers can have varying perspectives on, right? So there's no obvious answer to the arguable claim, right? Should the corporate tax rate, what the question is, should the federal corporate income tax rate be raised, right? There's no obvious answer to that. Certainly, it may feel like there's an obvious answer, right? However, the next part here ensures that you're not just making a claim based off of your feelings. Because, note how I use the word because. That's the bridge that's going to connect your arguable claim with your three logical reasons. Now, what are your three logical reasons, or what is a logical reason? A logical reason is a fact, either the lesson from an anecdote or research findings. In this case, the ones that matter to us most are the facts and the research findings. Okay. Logical reasons help to determine the scope and the frame of an argument. Okay. Right. And more importantly, insofar as it helps to determine the scope and the frame of an argument, it also provides your readers with a structure, and yourself, right, as the writer, with a structure, right? A first, second, and third structure for your argument, for your essay, okay? These logical reasons could also, too, be remixed, right, into the topic sentences of the body paragraphs of the most important part of your research argument assignment, right, of your research essay, okay? So let's bring it all together now, all right? When your powers combine, right? Sorry, y'all, I make a lot of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Captain Planet, Voltron references, those sort of types of things. I'm a nerd at heart. So when you bring it all together, a thesis statement is out of necessity the combination of an arguable claim and three logical reasons, right? So it's two parts that are combined into one: an arguable claim and three logical reasons. One sentence, not two, not three, not four. One sentence. Here's how it should go. Take a look. Remember, I told you there's some key words: should and because. Pay very close attention. Here's my example of a thesis statement that I would actually write my research paper on. Pesticides should be banned because they endanger the lives of workers, they eat away at the Earth's atmosphere, and are potentially fatal to consumers. All right, chat. I got some questions for y'all. I need some answers in the chat, folks. I need some answers in the chat. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? I need answers. Get ready. You ready? Get your fingers ready. Let's go, Twitter fingers. What's the arguable claim? What's the arguable claim? I need you to identify the arguable claim. All right. Put that in the chat. Identify the arguable claim. And I want you to write it directly. You can put it in quotes. You don't have to put it in quotes, but you can if you want to, right? Put it in the chat. Just the arguable claim. What's the arguable claim in this example here? Okay, I got one response. Let me get some more. I know what you meant, Mai. Jamari. Okay. All right. Let me get some more in the chat. More responses. What's the arguable claim? What's the arguable claim? Okay. See if I can get a couple more. I'll give y'all a couple more minutes. Okay. All right. So here's my second question. Identify the first logical reason. Identify the first logical reason in this example. What's the first logical reason? Identify the first logical reason. Pesticides endanger the lives of workers. Okay. What's the first logical reason? Let me see some more responses in the chat here. Wait. So Jamari, I need you to actually. You're only pulling from the words that are in this example here. I don't think this thesis statement says they make a different impact on the workers. They make a different impact on the workers. I don't see where it says that. Consider revising that. Yeah, so we're only using the language that's provided to us in this example here. Let's identify the first logical reason. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So I got my responses for the second question. My third question. Okay. Pesticides are lab. So okay, yeah. So Henry, we're only using the language that's provided in the examples. Right? I want you to identify based on this example here, right? What's highlighted, the example, pesticides should be banned because they endanger the lives of workers, eat away at the Earth's atmosphere, and are potentially fatal to consumers, right? I only want you to identify certain parts of that sentence alone as, in this case, right, the first logical reason. What's the first logical reason here? Okay. Take another stab at it. Okay. All right. While y'all are thinking about that, I'm going to drop my third question, folks. Okay. Third question. Identify the second, oops, it should be second logical reason. Identify the second logical reason. Identify the second logical reason. Okay? Identify the second logical reason. Identify the second logical reason. Pesticides eat away at the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, Maya, see you. Got one response. Okay, so again, Jamari, remember, we're only identifying parts of this sentence. We're not providing our interpretation at all. Monica, I see you. You provided a response. Good. And you're only identifying a part of the sentence, right? So as you can kind of see from some of the other responses, right? They're only using parts of the sentence that are there in order to answer the question. So if it's not in that sentence, can't use it. That doesn't apply. Pesticides eat away at the Earth's atmosphere. Okay. They are potentially fatal to consumers. Okay. 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 Right. So now here, this is my fourth question. Okay. Identify the third logical reason. Identify the third logical reason. Identify the third logical reason. Are potentially deadly to consumers. Okay. Okay. All right. Got our first response. Okay, Maya, see you. Okay, Greg, I see you. Okay, okay, heck yeah. Yeah, good. Good. So it looks like we got some good responses. We got a nice little round table of responses here. Let me actually go over the answers here for you. Okay, so I want to highlight some key things for how to break down this sentence. Okay, first and foremost, pesticides should be banned, right? When it comes to my first question, when I'm asking, right, what is the arguable claim? This is it. If you put pesticides should be banned, you got the answer correct, right? If you did not, then I need for you to actually go back. Take a look here, right? This sentence, through the use of the word should, makes it arguable, right? It's identifying a particular subject, right? So the subject of the research topic, right? It's making a claim, right, in the form of the word should. And then it's also to providing a specific action or solution, right, to a specific problem, right? This thing arguable, right? Action. This thing, arguable action, right? So if we take a look here, if we understand, right, like our research question, right, to be, what should what should the federal government do about the overuse of pesticides in everyday food products, right? Or what should the government do about the overuse or the oversaturation of pesticides in modern American daily life, right? A one sentence response to that based on this thesis statement here, right? This is just a one sentence response. Pesticides should be banned. All right. Here's what I want you to drop to me in the chat. Answer this question in the chat. Yes or no? Answer this question in the chat. Yes or no? Does everybody, not you individually, right? But if we're putting this out, if this were a law that were to be passed tomorrow, right? Would everybody agree with it? If this were to become law tomorrow, would everybody agree with it? Right? Good. Yeah. Yep. Excellent, right? Answers in the chat. Certainly, right? You're all accurate. Right? Why wouldn't everybody agree with it? Or here, better yet, who would disagree with it? Who would disagree that pesticides should not be banned? Who do we think would disagree there? You're absolutely right when you say that not everybody would agree with it, right? You're absolutely right. Who might disagree? Exactly, Mai. Exactly. Right? Monsanto, who's a major manufacturer, right, pesticides, absolutely right, Henry, right? Major corporations actually produce pesticides and make a profit off of pesticides would certainly disagree with that because it would undercut and undermine their business, their entire business model, right? So at the very least, right, that group of Americans would actually disagree with it. So to that extent, right, the phrase that you see highlighted here, the very fact that there are groups of other groups of individuals who would be affected by this solution who would not agree with it, right? That is what makes that statement right here, this part of the statement, arguable. Okay? Thus, this part of the statement right here, not because, not anything that comes after because, only everything that comes before because. If it's before the word because, that is your clear marker of your arguable statement. Okay? It works on anything. Look, watch this. Should the federal corporate income tax rate be raised? Just give me an arguable claim that responds to this. I don't care which side you actually kind of come down on. I just want you to type in the chat. Give me don't give me it should not be two sentences. I don't want no whole. Don't even give me any logical reasons. I just want an arguable claim that responds to this question right here. Should the federal corporate income tax rate be raised? Drop it to me in the chat, folks. I'm going to see what you're going to write, and then I'll actually provide some clarification here. All right. Give me a brief one sentence, very brief, very short response to this question here. Should the federal corporate income tax rate be raised? I want you can use the same model from the pesticides example. Nope, Henry. Nope, nah, nope. That's not it. If you're starting out your arguable claim with depends, that's not an arguable claim. Nope. Try it again. Try it again. Try it again. And it only need the first part, right? So just like how you saw the first part of the pesticide should be banned, right? Pesticides should be banned. That's an arguable claim. I need your response to mirror that one. It shouldn't even be any longer. And part of the reason, Henry, right? I'm not trying to dismiss your thought right here, right, or even like the thinking, but there is a right way to construct a thesis statement, and there is a wrong way to construct a thesis statement. What you've entered into the chat, that's not correct, right? I don't want to set you up for failure. I want to set you up for success. So that's not it. Try it again. I want you to try it again, man. I want you to try it again. Everybody, I want you all to try. Drop it on in the chat, right? This is very, very, very straightforward. I'm not trying to trick anybody. I promise. I promise I'm not. Tax shall be proportional to business income. Nope. Nope. Yes, exactly. Boom. Look, take a look at what Mai put in the chat right here. Boom. Look at this. See, Henry, there's a difference. Corporate should pay more income tax. That'll work. That works, Greg. That works, Greg. That works, right? Take a look at what's provided here. This is a short, direct, it's not, you don't want to obfuscate. Henry, what you've entered into the chat, right, obfuscates, it takes away from the point. We want a direct line answer, very simplistic. Take part, look at what comes, look at this sentence, right? The federal corporate income tax rate. You take that first part of that sentence and then you substitute or you move the word should to the end of that. You have an arguable claim. Whatever the subject is, arguable claim, okay, in the form of the word should, right? So should, right? So whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, right? Apple products, right? Or Apple the company, right? Apple the company has inhumane engages in inhumane business practices, right? Okay, right? Apple should adopt more humane business products or more humane business processes, right? The use of the word should activates the argument in and of itself. So the formula is this: topic or subject, that comes first, right? From the example, the subject was pesticides, right? Should is the arguable activator, right? And then do what? You need to have the verb, right? What should they do? Right? They should be banned, right? The federal corporate income tax rate should be raised, right? And that's what Mai says, right? Corporate or corporations should pay more income tax, right? That's what Greg says, right? And both of those are arguable, right? The reason why, because you have the subject, right? Corporations. I'm going to take Greg's, for example. The subject is corporations, right? The argument is that they should. The verb is what? Or rather, in this case here, right? What Greg is actually giving us as a verb phrase, pay more income tax, right? That's how your arguable claim needs to be structured every single time, right? It needs to be structured every single time that way. Right? This is a basic formula for how to compose an arguable claim. If it is not constructed in that way, it is wrong. It's wrong. Doesn't mean that it's not a good idea, but it's not, it doesn't work in accordance to the framework that we actually have, right? Which is the combination of an arguable claim and three logical reasons. It might be a good idea, but that doesn't make it an arguable claim. all arguable claims are good ideas, okay? Not all good ideas are arguable claims. All right? Right? Okay? Henry, you got a couple of good ideas, right? That doesn't make them arguable claims, right? Subject matter, active uh, active claim, right? Or the word should, right? And then the verb, right? So I want you all to actually absorb that, because part of our responses, or excuse me, what I'm trying to highlight for you all in our responses, excuse me, that's why some of you got the answer correct, and some of you did not when it came to identifying the arguable claim that's listed here, right? I need you all to actually get in the habit of doing your thesis statements, of doing an arguable claim, right? And that's what you all just did right now, right? You all, those of you who shared with us in the chat, first of all, hats off to y'all. Let's show some love in the chat for all of y'all who actually participated, because y'all demonstrated bravery, and also to courage. I understand that, heck shoot is definitely not popping these days to, go out in front and, try to actually show what you got, right? But y'all did it. And that's exactly how you should be doing, right? This is part of class, right? We all here to actually learn, right? So you can't sit up here and learn how to dance by being a wallflower. You know what I'm saying? You might as well go ahead on and go on out there and have a good time, right? So that's part of what we just did right here, which was to learn how to do an arguable claim. We learn how to construct an arguable claim. Pesticides, that's the topic, right? The arguable claim, right? Or excuse me, the active argument, right, is should, right? And then the verb is be banned, right? So the subject, active argument, verb, right? Pesticides should be banned. This is the arguable claim. Now, the first logical reason, right? First of all, the bridge, there's a gap that exists between the arguable claim and the three logical reasons, right? There's a gap that exists between these two statements, okay? The bridge, or the tie that binds them two together, is the word because. Yes, you have to use the word because, okay? Use the word because in order to, right? Those are what we call coordinating conjunctions, right? Because in order to, right, those are ties that bind things there together, right? Arguable, excuse me, not things, but arguable claims with logical reasons together, okay? I'm showing you all just the kind of basic use of the formula, right? So just quite simply, you can always 100% a reliable, guaranteed truth is if you use the word because. There's some different ways and formulas and strategies that, you'll learn about as you kind of move up and down, the English major, or even if you kind of branch out to different different disciplines and you engage in writing in different disciplines, right? There are a variety of different techniques and formulas that individuals kind of show their students, right? I'm just showing you all just kind of the basic 1-2 step here, okay? Use the word should in order to signal your arguable claim, and use the word because in order to connect your arguable claim with your three logical reasons that come right after. Now, specifically through the use of the word because, that signals a logical reason. It signals a rationale because, right, they endanger the lives of workers. If you, in response to my question on, to identify the first logical reason, if you entered into the chat, they endanger the lives of workers as the first logical reason, you got it correct. If you entered into the chat, they eat away at the Earth's atmosphere as the first logical reason, that is incorrect. Okay. Why? Because the logical reasons necessarily come in a particular order. Okay. Right. So they endanger the lives of workers. That's the first logical reason, which also too means that this part of your entire thesis statement can be used in order to create the topic sentence of your first body paragraph that's going to pop up later on in the essay. Okay. Now, for the second logical reason, if you selected or entered into the chat that if you said something to some kind of variation, right, even if you kind of give like a full sentence, that's perfectly fine, right, that they eat away at the Earth's atmosphere, then you got to correct. If you put down in the chat that the second logical reason is that they are potentially fatal to consumers or because they endanger the lives of workers, then you got that incorrect. The second logical reason comes right after the first, right? The second logical reason comes right after the first, okay? And then, of course, by process of elimination, we can actually see here that and are potentially fatal to consumers is the third logical reason. Now, how do you know which one is that there's a series that's being introduced here or which one is first, second, and third? Here's how you know. I'm gonna show you something real tiny, real small. Look at this. You see that? This thing right here? That's a comma. You see this right here? Right? That's another comma. And then you have coordinating conjunction and the third logical reason along with the period that follows right at the end. Whenever you're introducing a series of ideas or thoughts, okay, items in a series, you separate them by the comma, okay? So what I'm showing you all here, specifically by focusing on words like should, words like because, words like comma, or the commas, right? Okay, coordinating conjunction and comma, right? What I'm showing you all here is the basic structure of a one-sentence thesis statement, okay? Right? So this is how you put together a thesis statement for a persuasive argument. This is how you put together a thesis statement for a research argument proposal, okay? So, see, the reason why I have to focus on this, folks, is because when I was in high school, I remember as clear as day not understanding how to put together a thesis statement. In fact, I didn't learn how to put together, I didn't learn the structured framework in which a thesis statement should go until I was well along in my upper division classes as an English major. I was in college. I was almost graduating by the time I ended up learning how to properly formulate and frame my thesis statement. That's not good. Okay, folks? So as opposed to having y'all wait until y'all are just about to go ahead on and graduate in order to learn about how to formulate a proper thesis statement, I want to give this to you directly up front. Okay? All right, folks. Hopefully that helped. Okay. Greedy Greg says that made sense. Okay, cool. Heck yeah. Excellent. So glad that it made sense. Right? Any questions, comments, emotionally justifiable outbursts? You can scream over the internet. No one will hear you, but you can scream. It's possible. Or you can shout. You can give all of that. It's possible. All right, folks. Heck yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the chat right here and now. Okay. All right, folks. Heck, yes. Certainly a lot of info to take on in. I totally understand. Absolutely, Greg. Absolutely. Yeah. So because this is a lot of info to actually take on in, right? I need to actually kind of stop for right now. Okay. Those of you who are in my later class, I'll actually post up another video, another YouTube video that I already have recorded, and that will actually help us to kind of get ready to submit your first writing assignments, which is the critical memoir. Okay. It'll go over how to compose it. It'll go over, how to make use of action, dialogue, even some of the elements from the narrative structure. Okay, that's for my second class, my class that's just started under, within the last 2 weeks. So Jamari, that's your class. Okay, just take a look at the. You can actually take a look at the announcements tomorrow morning in order to see what those what that video entails. Okay. If anybody has any other questions for me from my class that has the research argument proposal due this weekend, please make sure to send me either an email or a Canvas inbox message, or hit me up on Slack, so that way you can text me directly. And then I might actually be able to have about like 20 minutes or so for each appointment tomorrow. Okay, I can sit with a few folks for about 20 minutes a piece tomorrow. If you have any questions, or if you want to get some feedback on like your thesis statements, or maybe your intro that you may actually start to write. Okay, all right. Okay, folks, we're gonna actually end it right here. We're totally at an hour and 30 minutes right now, which is a very long video. I'm going to pause it, or rather, sorry, not pause, but I want to actually stop our lesson for the day for right now. Thank y'all so much for tuning in with your friendly neighborhood Professor Clax, swinging on through the name. Absolutely, absolutely, anytime, Greg. Heck yeah, man. Thank y'all so much for tapping in and tuning in with your friendly neighborhood professor. Y'all take care. Have a good night. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you all at a later date and a later time, folks. Enjoy your evening and your family.